Gosh, wow, so many powerful stories and so many powerful themes here. And I think that, gosh, I guess I think it would be good for you all to be able to ask some questions of each other, to the audience to have some questions. So although I was asked to provide some questions, I think I'm just going to stick with just one question at this moment, okay? And again, not everybody needs to respond to the question, so you guys can sort of decide among yourselves how you want to respond. I think one thing that you've all hit on very forcefully, that as you know, as some of you know, I'm a historian and I've been doing a lot of research on the roots of the Fairness Campaign, and the reason I wanted to do that research was this very point that all of you and you most recently talked about, is this coalition of standing together when in so many communities people haven't. And it's not entirely unique about Louisville. Thank goodness there are some other communities, but it's not the norm. And I think that is a powerful thing for us to keep in mind as we celebrate this 20th anniversary and as we move this campaign forward. So, having said my piece, my question is this, which switches it around a little bit. We know now a lot about who came together, how we came together, how we stood together. I would like to hear a little bit more about the specific. We've heard that it's a struggle. Could you talk a little bit more about some of the opposition? Because there are some amazing stories that I've read about and heard about from some of you. Not that we don't have that opposition today. We still have opposition, but it's a little bit different. So I think it would be really great.
Thinking about the opposition in the black community, really, in my estimation, it came from the black clergy.
Right.
It came from the church because, as you said, we're talking about sin and all the rest of that. And they were very vocal, whether it was Frank Simon, whether it was Peter Hayes.
White guy.
They're white guys.
Yeah. But there were some black ministers.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember I used to, when I ran in 2000, I got beat up on the radio several times, you know, because I had made a point that, yes, I support the extension of the fairness ordinance beyond employment to housing and public accommodations. Yeah, of course I do. But they were vicious. You know, there was a time that there was, what we had, opinion line, and people would call. I mean, we get 3,000 calls on the opinion line, and they be nasty calls. We get calls, you know, at the office, and we'd have to hear those calls. So the opposition was also determined to vote people out. You know, Project Fair Vote was going to vote you in, they were going to vote you out. You know, so as I think about merger, when it came time to reenact what had been passed by the Board of Aldermen and the county, that was one of the things that they were looking at. You know, just like the Courier Journal will ask, where did you stand on fairness? Fairness would ask, where do you stand on this? What do you think about same-sex marriage? And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. You know, 20 years ago, I was like, well, I don't know if I'm there yet. You know, but I could go for the rest of that. I said, I'm open, but I'm not there yet. So, you know, at least I was honest.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway, I'm just saying that to say that they were organized and they believed what they believed. Very passionately, you know, so it was a little struggle, but it was, we dealt with it.
Good plan.
Oh,
So when thinking in terms of opposition, I'm going back to that one public hearing early in the campaign that lasted literally for 5 hours. How many people in the room were at that public hearing that went on for 5 hours? Literally. 3-minute statement from them, 3-minute statement from us, 3-minute statement from them, 3-minute statement for us. And we heard everything, just incredible, that's got to be recorded and documented somewhere, and incredible statements of support and incredible attacks. You know, we heard things like that we had sex with cows, and, you know, and we had all, you know, lesbian, gay, bi, trans people kind of heard it all before. It would really moved and motivated straight allies to hear that that kind of attack and that kind of stuff. And we will never forget, we had intentionally worked to build an organizational Friends of Fairness list. And somewhere in that night, Jeff Rogers stood up and read that list. And it was a powerful, just one of the most powerful moments. I didn't know I was gonna. Jeff's my boyfriend and Ed too now. I don't know if people know that. You know, before Fairness, I didn't have boyfriends, so. But that, you know, the mean spirit of the way that came down, that really just was like trying to rob people of basic humanity, and any oppressed group, that attack occurs on that level, that you're not just fighting for your rights, you have to fight to convince people that you're human.
We had a policy not to engage with the opposition, and that was a very good policy. I knew the truth. When the truth is on your side, you know, to me, not being gay, it didn't hurt me like it hurt other people. But the thing is that I knew the truth, and the truth is that gay people are no better and no worse than straight people. I mean, they're just people, you know? So I knew that the truth would come out, whether when gay people came out, and I think it caused gay people to come out too. Yeah, as well as straight allies. And that is the truth is the weapon.
Yeah, that is right.
The truth is what you need. And so it was always there, and it was, I think, there to see. I remember one time when Scotty Green asked Eric to come and debate with Frank Simon at one of the, what was it called?
Louisville Forum.
Louisville Forum, the Louisville Forum. And we debated about that, and I think we finally came to the conclusion that, you know, Eric would look so much better than Frank Simon.
There's that.
But despite our policy of not engaging with the opposition, that was an exception to the rule.
American minister. He didn't live in Louisville. I think he was from over in Indiana. Amen. He was a very vicious. And today, he still is just the very same. We're visiting charter schools, and he's trying to tell me about what these gay people are doing. I said, they don't have anything but educating my children. So we still got, you know, some folks out there that are a little ignorant. Those are the folks we still have to work on. But one man that had some thoughts about fairness, and we spent a mini evening on my porch, and we talked about it, the late Louis H. Coleman. And after we talked about it, I began to tell him, you know, how can we work on this issue and not look at the issue that they're doing the same thing with gays and lesbians as they did to us when we were asking for our basic rights. I said, is there anything in the scripture that tells you that we're supposed to have ours, but someone else is not supposed to have it? So we went through all this ordeal together. He's a very hard-headed man, but finally, he became a supporter of fairness. Louis H. Coleman.
Okay, I'm inclined, unless you all have questions of each other, I'm inclined to open this conversation up because everybody's got so much richness in this room in terms of other experiences. The stories are so amazing to hear. Could we hear some questions or comments? We do want to stick with that 3-minute rule like they did in the board hall.
Hey, Kay, I just want to, first of all my heroes up here. Thank you. The question I have is, you mentioned, okay. The question I have is, Sherry, you mentioned about Project Fairboat, and you talked about Eric, and we all know what that turned into, and it's called Seafair. And as now one of the co-chairs of Seafair, I know that the person sitting next to you had a lot to do with it. So I would love to know, how did the early Project Fairboat, how did that play into things? And if you can give us a slight history, a lesson on how we went from Project Fairboat to Seafair.
The Seafair actually came together very early in it. I think it was in 1991 that Seafair was formed. And Fairboat, as I recall, was more of an observation and watching how the...
knocking the doors.
And knocking on the doors, going door to door. So the two of them did dovetail very well together. And certainly, I mean, we can all look back on some of those races, and we were able to do really amazing things in some of those races. I mean, that in the Board of Aldermen races, all across the city, we were able to unseat, not always, but we were occasionally able to unseat an incumbent. And I think that's on the political side of it, that's when a lot of other people started really, the politicians started paying attention to us and said, wow, they've knocked off an incumbent, how'd they do that? And so it wasn't just, oh, we can just keep voting these people down and they'll eventually go away. We were starting to move into their districts and going door to door and talking to their constituents, and then starting to raise some money to talk to them about their own campaigns.
And then one funny thing was that the Courier-Journal, David Hopp, blamed us for Mike Ward's defeat in Congress, and we thought, oh, my goodness, we're not quite that powerful.